Alright, welcome back to another Hack the Box walkthrough video. Today we're going to be tackling the Redeemer box, which is new in the starting point track as of mid-2022. But before we get into the actual walkthrough, there is one thing that I wanted to bring to your guys' attention, and that is, backed by popular demand, the actual answers to the questions for each machine in the starting point track. We'll be covering those once again. However, I'm going to save those to the end of the video, and we'll go back and clip parts of the video that explain each of those answers. That way you can see where we're getting the answers from, but that will be at the end of the video. So if you want to see the answers to all of those, make sure just to stick around throughout the duration of the video, or I will have a timestamp for that in the description below, and there will also be chapters on the video, so you can skip right over to that. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and hack the box. Oh god, that was so corny. Now I have to go back and actually listen to myself say that corny joke. Oh, jeez. Okay, well, with the corny jokes out of the way, let's go ahead and actually get into the walkthrough. Okay, so let's go ahead and tackle this box now. So first things first, just like always, I went ahead and connected to the VPN as usual. I'm just going to go ahead and blow this up and clear this out so you guys can see what's going on a little bit clearer. I am going to make a directory called Redeemer, and then we are going to cd into Redeemer. So we'll just do that, make sure we're in there. Okay, so now that we have our directory set up, we can go ahead and kick off our Nmap scan just to do a little bit of initial enumeration for this machine. So we want to go ahead and do that. We're going to just use sudo in case any of these switches require sudo privileges. I don't really remember which ones do right off the top of my head. That's not super important. But if we use the sudo command, then we won't have to worry about it. So if we just go ahead and do lowercase s and then do capital V capital C, that is going to combine the dash lowercase s capital V and the dash lowercase s capital C commands, which are both the service enumeration and then the script enumeration on the target machine. So the service enumeration is going to try to figure out what type of service is running on the port if it finds it open, and the script is going to run scripts against that service to try to gain more information on it that we can use to attack it. So that's what that dash lowercase s capital V capital C means, and then we're going to do dash capital T4, that's just going to increase the speed, and then we're going to do dash capital P lowercase n, that's going to skip the actual host discovery portion of this. Because we know that our target is online, we don't need to ping it to try to discover it. Then we're going to do dash dash open, because we only care about the open ports on this machine. Then we're going to do dash lowercase p dash, and basically dash lowercase p is how you would specify a port, and if we wanted to specify a port, we could, but if you follow it with a dash preceding the P, then what you'll get is it'll scan the entire possible port range. So that's good because we want to look for any odd ports that maybe aren't super common, or maybe they stuck a common port like something like SSH that should be on port 22. Maybe they moved that over to something like 4356 and it's just on this random number, so it would find it that way. So that's why we're going to do dash p dash, and then I am going to paste in the target IP, and then what we want to do is we want to have our output saved. So you can save the output of this scan to a file by doing dash lowercase o capital N. That's just going to save it as normal nmap output, you can think of it as, and then we're going to do dash slash, which basically means in this directory, save it in this directory. Then we're just going to call this Redeemer full scan. So I'm going to go ahead and let this run, and then I will jump back with you guys in 1 second when this is done running. Okay, cool. So this is done running, and it actually only came back with one port open, which means this is obviously going to be our avenue for attack. So the port that we see open is this 6379, and the service is Redis. And It's just telling us it's this Redis key value store. And now Redis is actually a form of database, and it's an in-memory database. So instead of something like MySQL where it stores, this enormous amount of information, it stores it on the disk or the SSD or the hard drive of the actual server. Redis is going to store a real small amount of information that's statically available on the application, but it does it really lightning fast. So it trades off that size of storage for faster retrieval and less amount of storage. And it stores it as key value pairs. So if you're unfamiliar what a key value pair is, that's going to look something like JSON. And I'm actually going to throw a little graphic of it up over here to my left, or whatever that would be, flipped in the mirrored version of the camera. But you'll get to see it. You'll see it stores as a key, and then that key is going to be unique. And once you have that unique key, it can store a value with it. So that's basically how that works at a super high level. It basically just looks like JSON. So that's pretty much what we're working with. But before we actually attack this, there's one thing that we are going to need to install. And what we need to install is actually the Redis tools. So if you're on Kali, what you can do, I'm going to go ahead and clear this once again so you guys can follow along here. What we need to do is we need to do sudo apt get install, and then you can do -y, that'll just check yes and say that we want to install it automatically. But then we're going to do Redis -tools. And this is basically going to be the tool that we can use to interact with the Redis database on our target. So I'm going to go ahead and hit return. This is going to install, and then we can move on from there. So once we have that installed, all we need to do is we're going to clear that out of the way, and now we just need to use that freshly installed tool to actually interact with the database itself. Now the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to do this Redis-CLI, that's the tool that we're going to be using, and then we're going to do -h to specify the host that we're trying to target. In this case, it is the target address of the machine. So what we'll go ahead and do is paste in that IP address, and then we will hit enter. And then you'll see that we are prompted with this Redis database prompt. And then all we need to do is we just need to run a couple of commands to try to gain some information from this. The first one that we can do, this is going to be a Redis specific syntax here because now we're interacting with the database itself. And that first command is going to be info. So if we run info, we're going to get a bunch of information back from the actual database itself. You can see things like stats on the machine, the amount of persistence, the amount of memory used. But what we're really interested in is this last point down here, which is the key space. And what you'll see is this is DB0, and you'll see that there's 4 keys. And now what this is basically saying is that there is one database on here, and it actually starts indexing at 0, just like a programming language would. So we have this first database, which is titled database 0, and there's 4 keys. And now if you remember to a second ago, I said that the information in this database is stored as a key value pair. So if there's 4 keys, that means there's 4 lines of information, 4 unique entries of information on this database in database 0. Now, before we're actually able to just query for what the information stored in these keys are, we actually need to select our database. And this is very similar to how you would do this in something like a Microsoft SQL Server or MySQL. We just need to select the database name. So we can just do select DB0. That was a goof on my part. It's not select DB0. It's actually just select 0. You're selecting the index, not the actual database name. So little nuance there. Now we can see that we have the actual database selected. So now that we have the database selected, we can query for the keys. And this is going to differ from a lot of other database syntaxes that you'll see. But in this database, you don't actually have to put a select statement. You just kind of name the portion of the key value pair that you want. And to do that, all you have to do is list keys and then star, which means all. It's a shorthand. You'll see it in a lot of other database management systems like MySQL uses star to select all. In this case, we're just going to say keys all, which roughly translates to give us all the keys in the database. So we'll go ahead and run this. And we see that there is 4 keys just like it said. Now, if we see that there is a flag key in the 4th slot, this is interesting because this is exactly what we want. We want the flag on the machine. And to get the flag on the machine, we just need to run one simple command. To query for the actual value of the key, we want to just run the get. So you'll see get, and then we just need to specify the name of the actual key that we want. So we're just going to say get flag, and that should return us the key value pair of the flag key. And it looks like it is. So just for proof, we'll do this one together. I'm going to go ahead and copy this flag, and then we will go ahead and submit it together in 1 minute. Now, let's head back over into the Hack the Box answer form, and we'll try to walk through some of those answers and see exactly what we just did. Okay, so now that we are back over in the Hack the Box question form, let's go ahead and talk about each of these items that we have here. So the first question is, which TCP port is open on the machine? That was our Redis port, and that was 6379. So let's go ahead and submit that answer. That's the first one done. Now, task 2, which service is running on the port that is open on the machine? We just answered that before. It was Redis, which is our in-memory database, or a RAM-based database that we can work with. So that's question 2. Question 3 is, what type of database is Redis? You can choose from the following options, 1 or 2, and we did just answer that as well. I'm actually going to copy the way that they have this written. Whoopsie. Let's copy the way that they have this written so that there's no hiccups on our end, and we'll paste that in, and then we can submit the answer there. That one is correct as well. So then task 4 is, which command line utility is used to interact with the server? And this is the tool that we installed, but this was called Redis-CLI, and that's what we use, the Redis-CLI, and connect to the database. So we will enter that and submit our answer, and that is task 4 taken out of the way. Task 5 I just mentioned, that is going to be -H to interact with the host that we specify. So that's task 5 out of the way. Task 6 says, once connected to the server, which command was used to obtain information and statistics about the server itself? So that was the command that we ran called info that gave us the database index and the keys in the database, as well as a bunch of other information. That command was info. So we'll go ahead and submit that, and that is task 6 taken out of the way. Task 7. Task 7 says, what is the version of the Redis server being used on the target machine? And I am going to quickly clip where we saw that in the Nmap scan right over to my side here, and then we will jump back here in 1 second. Okay, so now that you saw where we found that in the Nmap scan, the actual answer to this is version 5.0.7. So we'll do that, 5.0.7, and we will submit that answer. So task 8 says, which command is used to select the desired database in Redis? And that is simply the select command. So we will type that in. And if you remember, we just typed select and then the index of the database. Then we could actually interact with that specific index of the database itself. Task 9 says, how many keys are present inside the database with index 0? That was 4. There were 4 different keys in the database at index 0. And then task 10 says, which command is used to obtain all the keys in the database? And that, if you remember correctly, was keys with a star, which basically just meant select all of the keys. So we will submit that, and we have task 10 out of the way. Now, the only task left was to submit the root flag, so I am going to go back and grab that flag, and then we can submit this together and get this machine completed. So then all we need to do is come over to here and paste in our root flag and submit it, and we have successfully completed the Redeemer machine on Hack the Box. I hope this video helped, guys. If it did, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. Also, another quick thing to look into is to potentially add this video to a playlist. You know, learning hacking is really hard, and there's a lot of information to try to come back to after a long period of time. So if you want to save this on a YouTube playlist, you can check that button out right next to where you would like or subscribe or share the video. And that way, if you ever come across a Redis server on another Hack the Box machine, reference this video to figure out how to attack a Redis database sometime in the future. If you guys have been looking into getting a certification or some formal training on some red team style information, such as command and control development or using C# for white hat purposes, things of that nature, then you should go check out my friends over at 0 Point Security. I'm going to have the affiliate links in the description below, and anything that you would choose to purchase from my friends over at 0 Point Security definitely goes back into the channel and helps me out make some more videos for you guys and keep bettering the quality of the content. But that aside, they do have some of the best resources in offensive security over there, tailoring and designing these courses and the information in these courses. It's second to none, and I promise it will not disappoint you guys. But with that out of the way, thank you guys for joining me again today on another Hack the Box walkthrough, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.